The rain came down in a steady hiss, misting the windshield of a battered old Ford truck that rumbled along the dark backroads outside Seattle. Inside, Ethan Cole kept one hand on the wheel and the other gently resting on his daughter's tiny backpack in the passenger seat. 8-year-old Lily had fallen asleep with her head against the window, her cheeks still painted from the school's fall recital. Her costume sparkled faintly with the occasional sweep of the headlights. Ethan looked at her and smiled a small, rare thing on his face. He hadn't smiled much in the last 3 years, not since Sarah died. Not since he walked away from the... Warren tried to bury the soldier inside. A deer darted across the road. Ethan tapped the brakes, instinctively scanning the tree line, then sighed. Even here in the quiet, far from the killing fields, his mind never stopped watching, calculating, preparing. Old habits die hard, especially when they're the ones that kept you alive. They were 10 minutes from home when he saw the wreckage. Black SUV flipped sideways in a ditch, smoke curling from the engine. A second vehicle, a sleek sedan, was parked nearby, headlights on, passenger doors open. Ethan slowed. "Stay here," he said quietly. Lily stirred. "Daddy?" "Stay in the truck. Lock the doors. Don't move unless I come back." He didn't raise his voice. She knew that tone. She sat up, wide-eyed, and nodded. Ethan stepped. Out into the rain, he moved like a shadow, sticking to the tree line, eyes scanning. Saw them 3 men in masks dragging, a woman from the SUV. One of them held a suppressed pistol. He didn't know who she was. That didn't matter. This wasn't a rescue mission. This was instinct. This was muscle memory. Ethan snatched a broken branch, slipped around the back, and struck fast. The first man dropped. The second turned too slow, a blow to the neck. A twist of the wrist, gun disarmed. The third fired. Ethan rolled behind the sedan, bullet slamming into the door. The woman screamed. A burst of adrenaline. He surged forward, grabbed her arm, and pulled her into the car. He slammed the door, gunned the engine, and reversed in a spray of mud. The shooter chased after them but was lost in the rain. 10 minutes later, they were off the main roads, bouncing through the forest toward his cabin. The woman was unconscious, bleeding from a gash on her forehead. Expensive clothes, designer heels. He could smell blood and perfume and money. He kicked open his front door, laid her on the couch, and locked every entry point. Then he sat down. With his Glock in his lap, waiting. When she woke up, it was like watching someone boot up a computer, eyes flickering, data processing. She bolted upright. "Who the hell are you?" "Name's Ethan Cole. You're safe." "For now." She looked around. "Where's my security team?" "Compromised, probably. Or dead. Either way, someone wanted you gone." She stared at him. "You have no idea." "Who I am, do you?" Ethan shrugged. "Don't need to. I saw someone being dragged out of a car. That was enough." "I'm Isabella Reeves, CEO of Viriontech." The name hit him like a brick. Viriontech, the AI defense firm making headlines for exposing corruption in federal surveillance contracts. She was the one who'd gone public on national TV, calling out the shadow protocols. "Right," he muttered. "Now it makes sense." To her feet, wobbling. Ethan steadied her. She pulled away. "Need to call someone. No calls, no phones. Whoever's after you, they'll trace it. You stay here." She narrowed her eyes. "You think I'm going to trust some random stranger in the woods? Not a stranger. Not random. Former JSOC, Afghanistan, Somalia. Taught extraction and evasion before I walked away." Isabella was stunned. He didn't answer. Just looked toward the window where Lily's backpack sat by the door. Over the next few days, they remained. Hidden, Ethan trained his focus on guarding the perimeter, keeping a low profile. Isabella, frustrated, tried to get a signal, but every time Ethan blocked her. One night, as the fire crackled and Lily sat sketching in her notebook, Isabella softened. "She's amazing," she said. Ethan nodded. "She's my entire world." "Where's her mom?" "Gone." A long silence. Then Isabella whispered, "I'm sorry." He looked at her. "You know, I never thought I'd see combat again, but I guess some fights find you." Isabella reached into her jacket and pulled out a USB drive. They're trying to kill me over this. It has everything: contracts, payments, names, people you wouldn't believe. He took it and stared. Then we exposed them. We'll come after you too. Ethan smiled for the first time since she met him. Let them try. Later that night, the cabin was quiet, too quiet. Ethan sensed it before it happened. A twig snapped outside. A shadow moved. He was already at the window when the first flashbang hit. He grabbed Lily, shoved her into the panic crawl space he'd built years ago. Don't make a sound no matter what. Gunfire tore through the cabin. Ethan rolled, firing back with deadly precision. He took down 2 attackers before grabbing Isabella and diving out the back window. They ran through the trees, headlights sweeping after them. Isabella fell. Ethan turned and fired 3 shots, dropping the nearest threat. He pulled her up. Made it to an abandoned ranger station he'd used during a survival training course years ago. They were alive. Barely. Isabella slumped against the wall, trembling. Who are these people? Contract killers, mercs. Probably ex-Black Ops. Your evidence scared them. That means it's real. So what now? Ethan looked out into the stormy night. Now I stop running. They made this personal. They threatened my daughter. I go to war. Fade to black. Ethan crouched beneath the splintered frame of the ranger station's front window, his eyes locked on the distant tree line. Rain dripped from the brim of his cap, and the Glock in his hands was warm from the last firefight. Isabella sat against the far wall, her breath ragged, her face pale. In her hand, she still clutched the USB drive that was now the key to everything. Lily was safe. That was all that mattered. But Ethan knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. These people weren't amateurs. They had coordination, funding, access to encrypted comms, and a kill order. And now, they'd made the mistake of involving his daughter. That changed everything. He stood slowly and turned to Isabella. You still have that contact in the FBI? She nodded. Agent Mara Weston. She's clean, but if I call her, they'll trace us. Ethan handed her a burner phone from the ranger. Station supply box, one of many tools he'd buried long ago and never thought he'd need again. Call her. Tell her to meet us at the old Fulton airfield. Midnight. Tell her to come alone. Isabella hesitated, then dialed. The conversation was short, clipped, full of code words. When she hung up, she looked at Ethan. She'll be there. Ethan checked his watch. 6 hours. We move in 20 minutes. You rest until then. Tried, but instead she asked, why did you leave the military? He didn't answer for a long time. When he finally did, his voice was low. I led a team in Somalia. We were tracking a warlord who trafficked weapons and children. Intel said he was alone. But when we raided the compound, it was a school cover. They used kids as human shields. I called an abort. Higher-ups overrode me. We took the shot. I covered it up. I couldn't, so I walked. Isabella's expression softened. And your wife, Sarah Nurse, beautiful, strong. After I left the service, I thought I could. Start over. Build something normal. But war doesn't let go that easy. One night I wasn't there when a drunk driver hit her car. Sorry, he nodded, but his eyes were elsewhere. Lily saved me. She gave me a reason not to disappear. Isabella looked at him. You're more than a soldier, Ethan. He checked the magazine on his rifle. That's all I need to be for now. Midnight? Fulton Airfield was a forgotten stretch of concrete and rusted hangars. The wind howled across the tarmac. Isabella stood beside Ethan as a single SUV approached. Agent Mara Weston stepped out, hand resting on her holster. Mara, Isabella said. Thank you. Mara scanned the area, then looked at Ethan. You're the one who saved her? Name's Cole. I don't trust Easy. Neither do I, Mara replied. You got the evidence? Isabella handed her the USB drive. Everything's on there. Wire transfers. Death orders. Surveillance logs. It goes to the top. Mara plugged it into a tablet, eyes scanning. Her face paled. Oh, sweet mother. Oh, this is bigger than I thought. Suddenly headlights flared from the tree line. Trucks. Multiple. Men in tactical gear. swarming out. Ambush. Ethan shouted. He grabbed Isabella and Mara and ducked behind a hangar as bullets tore through the air. He moved like lightning, flanking left, laying down covering fire. "You said she was clean?" he yelled. "She is?" Isabella shouted. "They must have tracked us another way." Ethan planted explosives at the rear fuel tanks and blew them, taking out 2 vehicles. Then he sprinted through smoke and gunfire, neutralizing one shooter with a blade, another with a brutal elbow strike. Mara laid down cover. Isabella picked up a rifle and fired. Her hands trembled, but her aim was true. They made it into a hangar and sealed the doors. "There's a plane." In here, Isabella pointed. A dusty twin engine sat beneath a tarp. Ethan climbed in. "I can fly it. We're getting out of here." He hot-wired the system. As the doors burst open, the plane roared to life. They barreled down the runway under fire. Just before takeoff, Ethan yanked the stick, and they lifted. Into the sky they flew low, skimming treetops. Ethan plotted a route to an old safe house in Montana fallback site from his operative days. Isabella tended to Mara's wound, then looked at Ethan. "What now? We leak the data to every major outlet, internet, press, satellite, all of it. We destroy their ability to hide. And after?" Ethan stared ahead. "We finish it." 2 days later, story broke worldwide. Names, faces, contracts, a criminal web of privatized military corporations, corrupt politicians, and black ops syndicates. Arrests began. Protests followed, but they hadn't stopped the head of the 7. Snake Ethan knew who he was. General Royce Camden. Retired, decorated. Now the CEO of Stratcor Industries, the private defense firm Isabella had exposed. Camden had funded the hit squads and kept the intelligence pipeline buried. They had one shot, using Mara's contacts. Ethan and Isabella infiltrated a Stratcor Gala Camden's fortress, heavily guarded high-tech security. But Ethan wasn't. Walking in as a guest, he went in through the underground loading dock. A brutal final showdown followed. Stealth, sabotage, gunplay. Ethan confronted Camden in his penthouse. "You used to wear this flag," Camden sneered. "Now you betray everything it stood for." Ethan leveled his weapon. "You betrayed it long before I did. You fought no guns, just fists, knives, grit." Camden was strong, but age slowed him. Ethan won. He held Camden at gunpoint. "You're not worth a bullet." Then stepped back as FBI agents stormed the floor. Camden was arrested. Isabella's testimony sealed his fate. Months passed. Ethan returned to his cabin. Peaceful again, the headlines had moved on. But something inside him had changed. Isabella visited one afternoon. She brought Lily a new backpack. "For the next mission," she said, smiling. Ethan chuckled. "No more missions. We're building tree houses now." She took his hand. "Actually, I was hoping we'd build something together. Foundation, for veterans, for kids, security, training, education, hope." Ethan looked at Lily. She was laughing, climbing the tree with a rope he'd taught her to tie. He turned back to Isabella. "Yeah," he said, "let's build something real." They stood side by side, watching the sun set. Not as soldier and CEO, but as survivors. As something more.